Hi everyone, it's Shannon and welcome to today's video. So very excited about today's video because I am talking about the brand new alter ego palette called Mirage. I did receive this early in PR and I am hopefully timing this video to go up when it is released. So when it is revealed as far as what is inside. As of right now, as I'm filming this, they haven't even revealed that this is coming out. So I've been told that this is going to be revealed on October 3rd. I'm actually filming this on September 30th. So whenever it is revealed is when this video is going up. So I am recording it a few days before, and right now there's no information on it. So I'm going to be giving some information as far as what I think the pricing is going to be and some other information, but I can't really read anything from the website or anything, which is usually what I like to do. So this is a kind of an interesting video because I'm kind of going blind here, but I do have the palette. It is gorgeous. So this is the outer packaging, and then this is the palette. So here is the palette. It is Mirage, and we'll go ahead and open inside, and wow, it is gorgeous. So if you don't know already, this is inspired by the Huda Beauty Empowered palette, which was the Huda Beauty 18 pan, I believe, holiday release for 2022. So this is coming out this year. That is one of my favorite Huda Beauty palettes. I can't remember if it was #1 in my ranking. I think it might have been, but I love it, and seeing this one in person, it is stunning. So I do have the Huda Beauty Empowered palette, so I'll go ahead and just kind of show you, take a look. Mine is a little messy because I do use it. Like I said, it is one of my favorites, and we'll just kind of do a side-by-side comparison so you can kind of see that, yeah, so the colors are rearranged as is typical in the other alter ego palettes, but you can see the colors do match up. So I will do some swatch comparisons of the different shades compared to, I'll probably line them up in here and then match them to the shades that are in Empowered. So going off of the other 18 pan alter ego palettes, I guess that this is going to be roughly $24. So that is what I believe there's two other inspired by Huda palettes, and they are both $24. One is currently sold out, but the other one, I believe, is Coastal, is based off a Huda Beauty palette, and it is $24. So I expect that this one is going to be the same. I just don't know. So if it's wrong, I will post it in the description box below. But I do have a promo code for Alter Ego, and it is just Shannon10. So that will save you 10% off of any purchase. So I also do have, and I don't know if I have it here, but yes, I do have their eyeshadow base. They sent me another one. So this one, again, this was sent to me in PR. They sent me another one, but I have been using this. This is a great eyeshadow base. I think it's normally $7. It's currently $5. So if you're picking this up, I recommend picking this up. It's a really great eyeshadow base. Works well. I've used it with Charlotte Tilbury, with Pat McGrath, and then obviously with Alter Ego. It works really well. So let's get into the Mirage palette. Okay, so let's talk about the setup of this palette first off. So this, the Huda Beauty does have two cream shadows. So you have the two cream shadows on the left-hand side, on the top and the bottom. So what they did in theirs is that they put the two cream shadows at the bottom in the corner here. Another thing that I do like about it is that, so there's 7 shimmers, and what they did is they put the 6 shimmers in the middle, and then you have one right here. So the mattes are all on the side. You have the two cream shadows right here in the bottom right-hand corner. You have the mattes all together. So I like the way they set up the palette. So definitely different than the Huda Beauty palette. This is the Huda Beauty, setup. So I kind of like the same thing that they did with the last one. I think it's Sakura. I liked the way they set it up as opposed to Natasha Denona. I feel like they set it up more user-friendly, beginner-friendly, whereas, the originals tend to be more artistic and more, I guess, maybe visually appealing, but this makes it easier for me to look at. So anyway, but let's get into doing some swatches. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go across the row and do I'm going to first swatch the Mirage, and then I'm going to swatch the Empowered. So I'm going to swatch shade by shade kind of matching them up. So that's how I'm going to do it. Hopefully I have enough space to do 12, so I can do 12 at a time, but that's how we're going to start. So we'll start with the top row. Here is Clay from Mirage, Power from Empowered, Wander from Mirage, Best Self from Empowered, Cleopatra from Mirage, Bold Moves from Empowered, Odyssey from Mirage, Visionary from Empowered, Tomb from Mirage, Rebel from Empowered, and Nirvana from Mirage, and Big Dreams from Empowered. So right off the bat, the shimmers that have that creamy texture in the Huda palette don't have that creamy texture in here. They are just, you know, basic shimmers. So that's the first thing. I think the biggest one I can notice is between Cleopatra and Bold Moves. I believe it was here. The Alter Ego one is drier. So you might like that or you might not like that. I love the creamy texture from Huda Beauty, but at the end of the day, if it looks the same on the eye, is it worth the difference? I believe the Huda Beauty is $69 and this one is probably going to be $24. You know, is it worth the $45 difference for, you know, a creamy texture in the shimmer if it's going to look the same on the eye? You know, that's for you to decide. But anyway, so those are the first top row. I think the mattes, obviously Huda Beauty's formula and mattes are going to be great, but I think they're very similar. We'll see how they perform on the eye, but I think they're very similar. Okay, moving on to the second row, we're going to start with Bush from Mirage and Legacy from Empowered. Heat from Mirage, Do It from Empowered. Carrot from Mirage, Charisma from Empowered, Pyramid from Mirage, Limitless from Empowered, Endless from Mirage, Confident from Empowered, Stone from Mirage, Winner from Empowered. So this is the second row. And again, I don't see any significant differences. I will say in this shade, I thought the Mirage swatch, this first shade, swatched better. But for the most part, yes, the shimmers feel different. But on the arm, I feel they are very similar. Some of them are a little, kind of need to be smoothed out a little bit. But on the eye, that's, you know, swatching. It's, you know, it's just a swatch. So how it performs. But this is the second row. Okay, and now we're at the bottom row. So first is going to be Dunes from Mirage, and this is Keep Going from Empowered. This is Arid from Mirage, Get It from Empowered, Sirocco from Mirage, Manifest It from Empowered, Conquer from Mirage, Courageous from Empowered. And now for the cream shadows, Crypt from Mirage, Worthy from Empowered, and Dusk from Mirage, and Purpose from Empowered. So the cream shadows are very different. I really don't use those cream shadows, so I'm not really concerned about those. Everything else is pretty similar, and I will say the shade Sirocco is one that is creamy. It is very creamy like it is in the Empowered palette. So it is very similar in texture. It does have that creamy texture like the one in Empowered. Okay, so what I'm going to do is what I did in my last video for Alter Ego is I am going to do the same look on each eye, but one with Alter Ego and then one with the Huda Beauty Empowered palette. Rather than do two different looks, I'm going to do that so you can kind of compare. Obviously, it's only going to compare the shades I'm using, but I think for the most part, the shades feel very similar. With the exception of some of the shimmers. Some of the shimmers are drier if they're creamier. The only exception would be the Sirocco shade, which is Manifest It, that one, and that's the one I'm going to use. I think that's the one I'm going to use, and that one feels very similar. The other ones, that's the only one that's kind of creamy, where the other shimmers are more dry. And then the cream shadows are very different. The ones from Alter Ego are definitely creamier, whereas the ones from Huda Beauty feel more like a putty, and they're drier, and whereas the ones from Alter Ego are a little wetter. I really don't use those. I use those mainly for eyeliner. If I use them for a liner at all, I will try and use at least the brown shade today as a liner to compare, but I really don't use those because I really don't do liners that often. So if you are a cream shadow person and you use those, then maybe that's going to make a difference for you. But so that's what I'm going to do. So I am going to start with the shade Wander on the Alter Ego palette, and I'm going to do that all over the crease as a transition shade. So just like so, really pretty color. Now I love the Empowered palette because it is warm. I do like warm tones. I know cool tones are kind of popular right now, and there's rumors that the Huda Beauty Holiday Palette is going to be cool, you know, grungy, as is there's leaks for the Natasha Denona, but I still kind of gravitate towards the warm tone. So that is the Wander shade from Alter Ego. Okay, and the corresponding shade for the Empowered is Best Self. Again, and I also did use my Alter Ego eyeshadow primer on both eyes. So I'm using the same primer on both eyes. Again, it is a really great primer. So if you're ever picking up any palette from, or anything from Alter Ego, you know, for $5, even if you just use it for travel, you really just can't beat it. So now this one, interesting enough, I feel like I'm having to go in and build it up a little bit more with the Alter Ego. I'm sorry, with the Huda Beauty one. Taking a little bit more time to build it up. Still getting the same result, but it is, now this palette is a year old, so that could be an effect too, but Alter Ego and Huda Beauty. Okay, next I'm gonna go in with the shade Bush in the outer corner, and then to deepen the crease and kind of smoke it out. Again, this is kind of my go-to eyeshadow look. It's kind of how I do all my eyeshadows. It's because it's pretty much the only way I know how to do eyeshadow. I will do a halo eye every once in a while, but I usually have to watch a tutorial to do that, and I copy somebody, and I can do it, but it takes a little bit more time. But when I'm doing my eyeshadow, this is pretty much how I do it. So again, it's going on really nice, blending out really nice, no complaints here. Okay, there is the Alter Ego side. Now I'm going in, and the shade in the Empowered palette is called Legacy. So again, I'm just going to go out on the outside, smoke it out, and blend it out, and just kind of smoke it out in the crease. Okay, so there is the comparison. Honestly, blending them out, putting them on, I feel like I would not be able to tell the difference between the two eyeshadows. The mattes for these palettes, they seem like they're going on very similar, blending out very similar. Really can't tell the difference. So next I'm going to go in, I'm going to go in with my finger. I'm going to go in with that Sirocco shade, which is the one that I said is creamy. So I'm going to go on that one all over the lid with my finger, and let's see how it goes on. It goes on really nicely. So I'm just going to go in like so, and yeah, that's what I'm gonna, there really isn't a shade in this palette, in either palette, to do a highlight. So I won't be doing that. So I'm just gonna go over the whole lid, and like so with both. But there really isn't a highlight, but that's how it is in the original one too. Okay, so I've cleaned my finger, and I'm gonna go back in. That's how it looks on this eye. And I'm gonna go back in, and I'll say, even though it's been a year, this is still pretty creamy. So I'm gonna go back in on the other eye with the Empowered palette, and this shade is called Manifest It. Okay, so there is the look right now. So that is it. I feel like the Alter Ego side from my little tiny mirror feels like it's a little brighter, shinier, but I honestly, if I didn't, looking at it, I really don't see much of a difference. And it's subtle, and I don't think anybody would notice. But I'm going to go in now. I found a liner brush. I'm going to do the liner, the liquid or the cream shadows, and just do some liner. So I'm going to go in the shade Crypt, which is the brown one. And I'm just going to go in on the lower lash line. Okay, there it is with Crypt, the cream shadow as a liner. Went on really nicely, blended out. I was able kind of to smudge it really nicely. My concern with this is just that it, you know, how it's going to last. That's my only concern with this, but that's my concern also with the Huda Beauty one. So I'm going to go in with the shade Worthy. Now, the one thing with the Alter Ego one, like I said, is that it's much creamier. It's a wetter formula. So again, that's where I'm concerned. Where will it last as long? Because it is a wetter formula, whereas the Huda Beauty formula is more like a pomade. It's kind of like in between a pomade and cream shadow. So it's a little drier. Okay, so there it is with the liner underneath. Again, that one is just to be about longevity. I'm not doing a wear test today. So I just wanted to do a side-by-side comparison. So let me go ahead and finish up, put some mascara on, and come back and I will give you my final thoughts. Okay, so I'm back with a little guest. This is my son, Ryder.
Look at my handsome face.
Okay, I want you to look at my eyeshadow. Okay, one of them is really expensive and the other one is not. Which one looks more expensive?
Oh, close your eyes so I can see it more.
Which one looks more expensive? Do they look the same?
I mean, one of them looks like cheaper. I think this one's more expensive because
Why does it look more expensive?
The other one's doesn't look that expensive. It looks a little bit more like cheap for me or something.
It looks cheap?
Yeah, this one looks cheap. This one looks more like expensive.
Okay, well, obviously we cannot fool a 7-year-old because he's my kid. So.
Wait, I got it right?
You got it right.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so say bye to Ryder. Right.
Bye, everybody.
Okay, so I am back. I put some mascara on, and that was obviously my son, and you know, he guessed it. He said that this side looked cheaper, and the words of a 7-year-old. I don't think it looks cheap, but he did guess that this one is the more expensive one. However, I would say that the shimmers is probably where you're going to see the difference. I think you can see that in the swatches. However, if I were to go out right now, I don't think you would be able to tell that I was wearing two different eyeshadow palettes. It's the same look, you know. So, and that's where I'm going to say where I have, Alter Ego has sent me a couple palettes. So they've sent me, this is the first one I'm testing. I'm actually comparing to Huda Beauty. I do have the Coastal, but I haven't even used it yet because I do have Rose Quartz. So I haven't even used that, but I've done one for Anastasia, one for Natasha, and then this is the one for Huda Beauty. I will say that this one is the most similar in quality than the other two. I felt like with the Natasha Denona, there was definitely some more differences than in this one. I think this one, the mattes are very similar. I felt like the mattes went on very similar. I think the difference right now is in the shimmers, which makes sense because you're talking about ingredients and, but is it worth $45? So who should get this palette? If you like the color story, but you never wanted to spend $69 on the Empowered palette, then then this one is a great one for you. Where I have really enjoyed the Alter Ego palettes is I have the Goddess palette. That is the inspired by Natasha Denona Gold. I never got the Natasha Denona Gold. I love that. I love the Goddess palette because I don't have anything to compare it to. I don't compare it to the original. So that's where I would say is if you have the Empower palette, then you're not going to want to pick this one up. However, if you never got it, you always wanted to, but it's just a little too expensive, then I think you're going to really enjoy this. Again, you can save 10% off with Shannon 10. So that'll bring down the price probably to about like $21.50. So you'll save a little bit of money there. So that's where I would say like the Alter Ego palettes is because these actually travel really well. So I don't think like, they're pretty much the same size. So you're not gonna like save, you know, as far as size and as far as travel, they're pretty much the same size, except that this one is like cardboard. But these travel well. So I'm not afraid to travel with my Huda Beauty palettes. But like if you just didn't get the Empower palette, but if you have the Empower palette, then you don't want it. You're not gonna want it, you don't need it. But that's where I've really, have really enjoyed my Alter Ego palettes, is when I don't have the original. I never wanted to spend the money on the gold palette. That one was like $129, I think it was. I just never did. And when I got the Alter Ego, now I feel like I don't have that FOMO. I used to, but I don't anymore. The same thing with the Blvd palette. I never got the Blvd palette, always wanted it. They sent me with this one, they sent me their Inspired by palette. I forgot what it's called, but they sent me the one for Blvd. So very excited to try that one out. And I have not used it yet, but I'm very excited. And like now I feel like I'm gonna really like it, and I'm not going to miss Blvd. I'm not gonna have that FOMO for Blvd because I have that one. So that's where I think this really is good. Honestly, I think it's gorgeous. I think the shimmers are really good. Are they a little bit different? Yes, they are. You can tell on the swatches, but I think you're gonna get a similar look, and the average eye, you know, maybe if you have a 7-year-old, but I don't think the average eye is going to be able to tell the difference. So I think it's great. And the mattes, I'm really impressed with their matte formula. Their matte formula is really great. So with that, if you like this video, click like, click and subscribe. That way you get a notification every time I post a new video. Bye everyone.